You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
Today is December 26, 2023, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. Today we have a little bit of a different show. It's the last show of the year, and we don't have all of the normal knuckleheads. In fact, we have our invisible hand with us today, so that's going to be exciting. And that's James Just in our right-hand bottom corner there. So we got him, and on our other panelist is Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California, and he has graciously joined us today. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host. So,
you know what's also invisible today is my cup. I forgot to fill up my cup before the show started. So
okay.
Yeah.
Your hand is going to be reaching for some invisible liquids there.
Very invisible.
Okay. Well, today, some of the topics we're going to cover this whole Trump thing because, boy, I tell you, the stuff going on in Colorado is going to set the tone for, I think, going through the whole next year, since it's an election year. The fact that he has been bounced off of the ballot there, and this may go to the Supreme Court on short notice. Then we're also going to talk about a Libertarian AI project called Lisa, and that's been put out by one of the Libertarian presidential candidates, Mike Tremont. He's been a guest on the show before, so maybe we'll get him back at some point to talk about it, but we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're also going to talk a little bit about this brave new world of sort of gender fluid and what that means for policy going forward as well, because you can see all kinds of chaos that's being created when we can't really put our finger on, I guess, the big question of what a woman is. And finally, we'll talk about our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, which has to do with Boston's Christmas party, where they're trying to have a non-white Christmas. The first thing I want to get to, though, and this is a new segment we've been doing, is the quote of the day, the sort of liberty quote of the day. And that one, this time it's not really a libertarian. This is a scientist, but his quote is completely spot on with what we've been experiencing as liberty-minded people and the government trying to put its thumb on what we can say. And so I think it's important that these ideas of liberty get out there, especially when they're not coming from who you'd be the normal suspects on sort of liberty related issues. And this is Richard Feynman. He was a Nobel laureate in physics, and he was involved in sort of getting to the bottom of I believe it was the Challenger disaster with the O-ring problem, I think, but among many other things. And so you can find a lot of videos out there of him, but he made the statement, and I just think it's a wonderful statement. He said, "I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned." And boy, I tell you, after COVID, that's all we got from the government was answers that can't be questioned through our social media and such. In fact, it was the science that was telling us, Mr. Science himself, Anthony Fauci, saying, I've got an answer and you can't question it, or you're questioning the science. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? I mean, I just think this is a hell of a quote from a guy who's, I'm not sure what his politics were, but he was a prominent scientist and, really about objective truth.
You see, this is a real potential serious problem that we have going on in society now, because nowadays there are a lot of things that we are supposed not to question. You raise the COVID, some of the answers we are getting from the government, we cannot question it. Take the damn vaccine and shut it damn mouth was kind of the attitude. They were going to lock us down, and we better not violate the lockdown, or they'll find some way to prosecute us, or even do whatever the hell they think they should do to us, to destroy our business or whatever else they thought was necessary. But this tendency, this dogma, this don't question things, is extending to other parts of our life. There are certain things about race we cannot question. There are certain things about the transgender movement we cannot question. We cannot question things about misinformation and disinformation that the government supposedly is trying to stop. We cannot question these things without facing some sort of adverse consequences. This thing is going into the realm of religion, because since I was a child, they always tell us, don't question God, don't question his teachings. Even though the very Bible that they were reading from told us, test all things, hold fast to what is good. At least in religion, at least they make some attempt to tell us we could question things. But here they're telling us, if you question things, we might prosecute you. And this is a very deep and potential problem that our society facing. And 2024 is going to highlight some of these things in a very, very bad way. And I hope to God we find a way out of it.
All I have to say is that in order to answer questions, you have to question answers. And you can't solve a question without questioning previous answers. And so it's not possible. So that's, it's kind of a rather simplistic answer, but that is the answer. You can't move forward.
It is true, James. You're absolutely right that you cannot move forward with science without questioning things. You can't move forward with almost anything without questioning things. I mean, I don't think Steve Jobs would have come out with the iPhone, with the first iPhone, without having questioned a whole bunch of stuff in terms of how we communicate. Okay, so you must question things. The problem that we are having is that I think most of us on the right or libertarian minded believe we should question. We should always question. The problem is that there's a whole body of our population, of our fellow citizens, who believe there are certain things that we should not question. And
well, it's funny though, Leon, just to jump in though, today it certainly feels like it's people on the right that are the ones who want to be able to question authority. But in the past, I don't think it's always been that cut and dry. I think there's often been times on the right when they've been the ones who said, "Don't question what the government is telling you here."
Don't question me, but I can question thee. Right? It's that same thing. That's where we're at, right? Don't question me, but I can question thee, and so.
And Jason, that's a valid point. I think the in our present time, yes, the leftist Democrats, I guess some of them are Democrats, are really trying to be this authoritarian, totalitarian type mindset they're trying to spread through America. But you're right. In the past, some of it have come from the right also. It is true. So I think I will be fair-minded in saying I will condemn both. Okay, I really would, and I would want no part of anything that starts to look like religion when it's really in the public sphere. I want no part of that.
Yeah, I think the fairest thing to say is usually it's those who tend to be grasping for power that are saying don't question. And of course, if you're a liberty-minded person, that's exactly the kind of people you want to keep a close eye on, keep your hand on your wallet when they're around.
Of course.
So, well, speaking of some of this chaos and don't question us type of stuff, let's go to the sort of the story and politics of the day, and this is the issue of what's going on in Colorado. So now this is, if you've been paying any attention to presidential politics for the last year, you've seen that, not even just the last year, oh my gosh, it's been ever since through the Trump presidency, but the Democrats have been on a mission to get Trump, right? It's sort of been like the coyote chasing Roadrunner.
Yeah.
And it's like, what is the next Acme gimmick that they're going to throw at him to try and wrap him up? And some of these granted that Trump has put himself in some bad situations in some of these issues, but I mean the stuff that's being thrown at him is just absolutely insane. It feels like. In the latest of all of these is in Colorado. They're saying that without having been convicted of being an insurrectionist, they're going to the 14th Amendment and saying that Donald Trump, therefore, cannot run for president by invoking the 14th Amendment, which was essentially written for dealing with people who were in leadership in the Confederacy after the Civil War. And the idea was they didn't want any of those people kind of snaking their way back into power after they, rejoined the Union after that war. But it's absolutely crazy because the Supreme Court in Colorado has said, yeah, he can be taken off the ballot. We've determined that he is an insurrectionist and therefore he cannot be on the ballot in Colorado. So now there's other states that are looking to possibly follow suit. And that's what this Newsweek article is talking about. California is looking into it. And there's a whole host of states, looks like Arizona, Maine, Michigan, Minnesota, and they have kind of a list of other states in here who have different lawsuits that are pending to try and touch this issue onto getting him removed from the ballot in some form or some kind of restrictions on him. So it's pretty insane. And we do have a little bit of video for the response to some of this. One of the more interesting responses that came out is one of his competitors, Vivek Ramaswamy, and he kind of sums this up really interestingly and gives his own take on this. So, James, our very visible hand today, can you show us clip number 1?
Tried to bar President Trump from the Colorado ballot using an unconstitutional maneuver that is a bastardization of the 14th Amendment to our U.S. Constitution. This was a provision, Section 3, that was designed to bar Confederate members, people who switched to the Confederacy, from actually being able to serve. That's very different than what's at issue here, to say the least. This is a hollowed out husk of what the country was built on. The basic principle that we, the people, select our leadership, not the unelected elite class in the back of palace halls. That's old world Europe, not the United States. That's why I'm making a pledge today that I will withdraw, I pledge to withdraw from the Colorado GOP primary ballot unless and until Trump's name is restored. And I demand that Ron DeSantis and Chris Christie and Nikki Haley do the same thing, or else these Republicans are simply complicit in this unconstitutional attack on the way we conduct our constitutional republic.
So already Vivek has pulled himself from that ballot. He's called for the others to do it, and they haven't. And there was this came up at a DeSantis rally recently where he was going around campaigning, and he brought up the idea too, some of the chaos that could come out of this. I don't think he quite meant that he wanted to do this, but he brought it up, and it's being floated around by a lot of different people out there as well, that, hey, if they can do this to Trump, why can't we do this to Biden? So can you play clip 2 real quick?
What you're seeing the left do is they will use the power of the state to advance their agenda. And you see that with the Colorado Supreme Court. I mean, look, if somebody's convicted or something of some of these things, there was no trial on any of this. They basically just said, what, you can't be on the ballot? I mean, how does that work? What's the limiting principle for that? Why could we just say that Biden can't be on the ballot because he let in 8 million illegals into the country and violated the Constitution, which he has? Could we just say, oh, well, they have money coming to Hunter, whatever? So I think the U.S. Supreme Court is going to reverse that. But here's the larger thing of what the left and the media and the Democrats are doing. They're doing all this stuff to basically solidify support in the primary for him, get him into the general, and the whole general election is going to be all this legal stuff. And
so it seems like the wheels are coming off the wagons on our whole election process, potentially, of not even being able to get people on the ballots. I mean, they're going to be like experiencing what libertarians experience in a lot of states. They're having a hard time getting on the ballot in some of these places. What do you guys think about this?
Well, it's a little interesting because there was never an insurrection declared, because the person who could declare an insurrection, the only person who's legally able to declare an insurrection, is the president. So essentially, there was never an insurrection declared. So how can you have him guilty of an insurrection that has never been declared? Just from a legal aspect, you can't. So it's not going to hold up from a legal aspect. Yeah. And I suspect that's where the Supreme Court will end up their ruling will end up down on those lines, whereas there's simply never an insurrection declared, so they'll just end it on that. But it's my guess.
Well, my thought on this is along Ron DeSantis's point. So what do we do now? That any state can just declare someone an insurrectionist because of whatever and decide to kick them off the ballot. The Constitution that we all supposed to abide by gives 3 criteria for which someone can run for someone to run for president. And one of them is not being an insurrectionist. Okay? And I do not know how in our constitutional republic a state can just declare that someone was an insurrectionist and thus kick them off the ballot, just like that, without a trial, without an indictment, without anything. Just declare it, and then it becomes legal to kick them off a ballot. This is a very dangerous precedent. And James, I think you're correct. The Supreme Court will close their eyes, don't even think about it very hard, and overturn this and knock this out of the ballpark, because this is damn nonsense on its face without even thinking too hard about it. This is nothing about a Trump derangement syndrome gone amok. And we're just seeing it here over and over again. Even these indictments of Trump, these people are doing everything they can to get Donald Trump. Look at the indictments. All came within like a 6-month period. 4 indictments, 91 counts. Come on.
Yeah, but he's more popular than he was before all that stuff.
Yeah,
these people are morons.
Yeah. Well, and that was one of the interesting things that DeSantis was hitting at as well when he was talking there. And that thing is, for some of these, I certainly for the rank and file Democrats, this is probably just ginned up Trump derangement. But for those who are really pulling the strings, I mean, this may be an attempt to just sabotage the Republican machine in this to get everybody lined up to support Trump. And then Trump has an awful lot of people who don't like him. So therefore, I mean, he seems to be like the only guy who, even though he's winning in the polls, I think he's the only guy who can really generate enough crazy people to come out and either justly or unjustly turn the election to the Democrats. Yeah.
I mean, all the indictments and all that kind of stuff that you're seeing right now, all the attempts to get him off ballots and that kind of stuff. These are all attempts by the Democrats to have Trump win the primary, them giving him a good base to win the primaries. And then they think they can beat him in the general election because of what you just said, Jason. Trump brings out a lot of supporters, he does, but he also brings out a lot of people who hate his guts.
Yeah.
And will thus, since he's part of the Republican establishment, and hate the Republican establishment too. So this is their little plan that they have going. But it seemed to be somewhat, if you're going to believe the polls, it seemed to be somewhat backfiring. But they're still going to they're still weaponizing the courts, the Justice Department. They're still weaponizing those things to go after him and hoping something will stick. That's what they're hoping and counting on, that something will stick. Of all these indictments they have out there, 4 indictments and 91 counts, they're hoping we could find him guilty of something before the election, before there's time for the appeals courts and the Supreme Court to look at it and possibly overturn it. They just want to have some record of that before the 2024 elections. And then they can say, aha, he's a convicted felon. He cannot serve. That's what they're trying to do. But hopefully, well, Trump looks like he's a fighter. He's going to fight this and grind them into the ground. But if you believe the polls, it is somewhat backfiring. But, we still a year out. And like you say, next year is going to be a crazy year. So we're not going to know what's going to happen until we get there in 2024. Even though Jason was willing to make predictions, if you want to do so.
Well, the one thing I'm hoping is that with all of these just absolutely awful candidates, and unfortunately we've had years in the past with awful candidates, but I'm hoping maybe with all this chaos, a libertarian can sort of capture the public's attention.
Yes.
Maybe the Hail Mary comes in. we get our own Malay here in the United States, but James, it looked like you were about to say something. I was just going to jump to the next thing.
No, I was trying not to obviously yawn on the.
Oh, okay. Well, speaking of excitement about maybe liberty and getting a foothold of liberty in here, there's a new thing out here that one of the Libertarian candidates has recently put online, and it's I guess they're calling it a Liberty AI. And so, James, maybe we could bring up the visual on this. So it's called Lisa, and it's a Libertarian Intelligence System application is what that stands for. And so the idea is it's to maybe if somebody has a question about libertarian stuff, to just go to Lisa and ask what you think about it. And maybe that's a way that, people can, find some answers to these without maybe hitting somebody like a Bill Maher who occasionally calls himself a libertarian. You're going to hear something that's really not a libertarian answer on a lot of things. But I don't know. Did you guys want to give this a try? Is there a question about, I don't know, school choice or something else? You just want to see what comes out of this if we put in a message?
Well, then ask Lisa what you think about school choice. Okay, or what?
Okay.
Or is school choice
what's the liberty thing on education, I guess, or school choice?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What is the libertarian approach to education? Okay. And let's see if I can handle that question. So it is generating an answer for us. It says the Libertarian Party believes in giving parents and students more choice in education. We support school choice initiatives that allow parents to choose the best educational environment for their children, whether it be public, private, charter, or homeschooling. We also believe that education should be free from government control and interference, and that parents should have the right to direct their children's education without government interference. Sounds like a pretty good answer to me. I might have some very specific little nuances to add on, but that's I don't know. What do you guys think about this, Lisa? Do you guys like what you've seen from Lisa so far?
That's fine. The answer I think was fine. I like the answer, but I think Tim will take issue about parents making choice and the funding of the funding of the education, because it's still funded through taxpayer dollars. And I think Tim is an absolutist on this thing that the government should get totally out of education. And I think
Tim isn't here today, so we'll let Lisa's answer.
Yes.
What do you think, James?
It's good enough to be a generic answer for a random person who's just out looking for kind of what the generic libertarian answer is, which is fine. Because guy, you get 10 libertarians in a room and ask them that same question, you're going to get 12 answers. And so of course, on a thing like this, you're only going to get kind of a generic, all-encompassing answer, and that's his point, and so that's his purpose. So I think it's fine.
Yeah.
So, but you think that what do you feel about the answer about the extent of government involvement in education, which would be Tim's point, I would imagine?
That ship has sailed a long time. Government's going to be involved into education. I'm a practical person, and that's not going to, even if we wanted to unwind it, it's going to take 100 years. And so, I'm not going to waste my energy on something that's that theoretical.
Okay.
That's my solution on it.
Well, I tell you what, we'll give Lisa this one this time as far as for somebody who just needs a passing answer in liberty. But in the future, when we have some of our sort of heated discussions on this show, we'll turn to Lisa and see where she
We'll let
where
Lisa
she
be the
sides.
referee.
Yeah, we'll ask Lisa. We'll try that the next time. But we're kind of in a rush today, so Lisa's going to have to wait on trying to iron out one of our disputes.
Lisa
But
can
look for
referee
this
the
in the
next
future.
Leon and Tim disagreement, is what you're saying.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So look for some Lisa sightings from us in the future, because I think we're gonna touch on this a few times coming up. So, anyways, moving on from that. Yeah, one of the things that's also, do you guys want to hit that third topic? Do you think we have time, or do you guys just want to jump to the Knucklehead Noise Patrol? Because
I think we should go to it. I mean, we'll cut off at the correct time for the public access, and then whatever else you'll just post it as this. Let's go.
Okay. Well, so we're just about done with our public access point, but the next topic we're going to jump into is this issue of gender fluid. Boy, I tell you, this has been one of those, it seems like we've had all of these different social wrenches sort of thrown at us, as far as, things that are causing us to sort of tear each other apart, right? I mean, dividing on all these lines. And one of those things we've seen in the last few years, certainly, has been this issue of gender fluid. We've certainly had issues of people, in homosexual rights and all those kinds of things, where we've had to fight for equality for people in the past. But that said, I mean, we're getting to the point where we're not even able to define some of these things anymore. I mean, we're getting to the point where, like, our president is nominating a person and saying specifically it's because she's a black woman, and then they ask the person, can you tell us what a woman is? And she said, no, I can't. And
not in this context. I don't know what context you need. She said not in this context.
Well, yeah, and I mean, this is part of the problem. I mean, what kind of issues is this going to bring out in both public policy? Because certainly we have a lot of public policy that is geared toward specifically down saying that this program may be for women and this program may be for men. Certainly, we see public restrooms. That's one of the things. But it's also happening in the sciences too, where they're literally scientists are having things that can actually tell us, maybe an identifier for female sex or male sex, and we're starting to get some of those answers, like Feynman was saying, that can't be questioned. I mean, they're telling the scientists who are looking into some of this stuff to shut up. But before we answer that, if you're watching us on public access, we've got to go. So you can follow the rest of this conversation on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. So go check us out there. You can find a lot of other interviews we've done in the past as well. But you can certainly catch the rest of this conversation as well. So go check that out. So back to the conversation. So what do you well, we were just talking about the science aspect of this, and we had a video of a woman. So let's see. Here's James. Can you bring up the visual here? So there was an article here that said, "Welcome to Genderland, where everything you know to be turned on its head." And so that feels like sort of what's happening is that people can't even have conversations about this stuff without people even understanding the terminology. So we're kind of getting that upside down. But there was this woman, we showed a video of her before on one of our other shows, but I think it's a really important video, and it's totally on this topic, where she was, her name is Elizabeth Weiss. She's an anthropologist, and she was at a conference where she wanted to talk about some things about bone structure that she was studying, where they could actually look at bones in the ground and tell whether they were from a man or a woman. They were finding more identifiers, and they silenced their panel. They wouldn't let them go because this was starting to come up on these uncomfortable questions of being able to determine sex by biological markers. James, maybe you play the video clip number 3.
We're getting better and better at identifying what is a male and what is a female in the skeletal record. We are getting more and more attacked for knowing how to do this. I think the American Anthropological Association has has gone down the wrong path of becoming much more an activist and political organization than a scientific or even social science organization. Not too long ago, they voted, for example, to boycott Israel. So that's another example of this type of movement towards political activism. I think that the younger anthropologists more often are of this cut out of this cloth, so to speak. And as the organization is shedding some of its older members, it is becoming more and more about activism and not about science.
And you see, she's essentially telling us the science is becoming invaded by all of these social edicts that are telling people that, I guess that there are questions or answers that can't be questioned. Jen, can you bring back the visual real quick? There's a this was from the story Leon had here too, and it's of this protest, and you've got these people who are, I guess, science teachers, and they're saying science teachers know gender is a social construct. So, there's all this confusion about gender, sex, and where it fits into the law. And what do you guys think about all this? Because it certainly seems like we haven't seen the end of it, and it's caused a lot of division over these past few years.
And you are right. We have not seen the end of this. I think we have quite a long way to go before we come to the realization that men and women are different biologically. And that means we're going to have difference in law to deal with it. Take the issue of women's sports. You know what's going to happen in women's sports if we do not have some clear definitions of what a man is and what a woman is? Men are going to be dominating women's sports. And how could this be right? Men are taller, they are faster, they are stronger. And we are seeing in women's sports, we had a very good example of Leah Thomas, who used to be Will Thomas, who was a swimmer on the men's team. You could probably say a lousy swimmer too. I think he or she was ranked 40 something or 400 and something. And all of a sudden, Leah Thomas is the number one swimmer, NCAA number one swimmer. And what changed? Did Will Thomas went out and exercised a lot and trained a lot and made him this better swimmer? No. The only thing that changed is Will Thomas changed to Leah Thomas, and Leah Thomas became the number one female NCAA swimmer. So there's something wrong here.
And by the way, just to jump in, is without any operation or anything else, mainly just a name change and taking some hormones. So, anyways,
exactly.
Go ahead.
All his genetical genitals was still intact, and yet this person is swimming as a woman. So they're trying to tell us now that the XX chromosome and the XY chromosomes are not important. It's just how you feel. Now, don't misunderstand me here, okay? All of these people who jump up and down about every little damn thing. Gender dysphoria is real. It is real. But it is a psychological disorder, and it should be treated as such. Okay? It is a psychological disorder, and it should be treated as such. This is the only psychological disorder that we have going on in society today that we have this special category for. It is the only psychological disorder that we must affirm. If you have schizophrenia, we must treat that. If you are psychotic, we must treat that. If you're paranoia, we must treat that. But gender dysphoria, no. This is something we must affirm. This is a madness. Society is being reshaped because we have like 1% or less than 1% of society have gender dysphoria. This is madness going amok. The woke is taking over math and science and all these other things that we for 1,000 years have known to be true. Now they're telling us it's not. God help us.
James, what's your take on it?
Well, one, I don't think it's going to take as long. I think the places that started this to kind of shift our way back to some sense of normalcy, the places that started this, Sweden, what was it? Sweden, France, they're already kind of backtracking on the way they do this. It's not that they're completely backtracking from gender affirmative care, but they're delaying it until after adulthood. Right? They're treating it psychologically until after adulthood, and then those who after they reach adulthood still want to continue with maybe some more medical intervention, they can't continue down that path. And I think ultimately that's where it's going to land, and it's not going to take as long as I think we fear. It's gotten so unreasonable that it's almost like a caricature of itself. It's almost like we're watching satire in real life. And now I know people from both ways who have had a transitional surgery and it has saved their life, and I also know people it's destroyed their life. They regret it. And so, how do you balance these two things? And it's get it out of politics, get it back to the doctors and the individuals. And I think that's ultimately where it has to go. And I don't think it'll take as long to get there as we fear.
Well, James, I just wanted to jump on that real quickly. I just wanted to jump on something James said real quick. He said, get it out of politics. And I think from a liberty perspective, if we could just shrink government, then, what you do with your body and what I do with my body, we're not going to care as much. But so anyway, that's at least I see the libertarian sort of thing would be kind of just, hey, if we shrink government, this will be a smaller issue. But what was your sort of throwback, Leon?
No, the thing I was going to say is that this whole thing about people can transition, fundamentally, there's something wrong with that. Okay, because a man cannot become a woman and a woman cannot become a man. Okay, this is a biological fact. Let me back up. This is an unchangeable biological fact. So you see, it's just like the homeless problem we have here in America. You know what they're doing? They're treating the wrong problem. Okay, people have drug problems, alcohol problems, and mental disease, and they say, well, we have to find homes for the unhoused. Wrong answer. And the same thing is happening with this transgender issue. They're telling us, you have gender dysphoria? Oh, poor you. We must affirm your condition. No, we must not affirm it. Whether you're a child or an adult, we must not affirm it. We must treat your problem with compassion and with up-to-date medical science, not this woke nonsense that is going on right now. And this is what I'm afraid of when we're looking for some political balance. Oh, well, we could say, well, when they become adults. I mean, true, as a liberty-minded, when they become adult, you could do whatever the hell you want. I don't have a problem with this. But they don't stop there. They always try to go after the children, which is what they're doing right now. Okay? I have a real problem there. But I don't want us to ever get in the mindset of trying to affirm this. These people need help, and I'm willing to give them the help with compassion. But don't tell me a man could become a woman and a woman could become a man. It cannot happen. It just cannot. Well,
Leon, I want to help you get to your dinner, so I don't want to because I could jump in on this for a while longer. But let's get through.
I have a few minutes to go. Come on, you could go. Come on.
Well, I do want to get to our Knucklehead Noise Patrol because it's such a timely thing. But this topic will keep coming up. So there was a crazy thing, and everything's identity, this identity, that, and probably wouldn't matter so much if government weren't so big. But sadly, government's so big; it's in every aspect of our life. So when they're pushing some identity thing, that's always an issue. And in Boston, it's become such an issue that, and this is our Knucklehead Noise Patrol for this week. But Mayor Wu in Boston, she wound up having a Christmas party where she had her staff send out an email to the different city council members and tell them that this was their invite to the people of color Christmas party. and then she had her staff send out another email a couple minutes later to all of the white people who were in the city council and said, "Oh, sorry, we didn't mean you. You're not invited."
They were disinvited.
They were disinvited. And so we do have well, here is the visual of that story. Jane, maybe you could bring up the visual real quick. So here's the visual of the story. And there is actually a little bit of video, too, that describes Mayor Wu in her own words talking here, and just a little bit of background, too, with some of the other city council members. So can you show that clip, KNP clip?
But also tension over a holiday party not everyone on the city council was invited to.
And I don't get offended. You don't want me at a party, I'm not going to come to the party, so,
It all started with this email sent out by a city staffer on Tuesday on behalf of Mayor Michelle Wu, inviting all city councilors to an Electeds of Color holiday party on Wednesday night. About 15 minutes later, the same staffer sending out an email apologizing for sending out the invite to all city councilors. The mayor saying the party is just intended for minority elected officials.
There are many, many events that are private events for all different sorts of groups, and so we've clarified that and look forward to seeing everyone at one of the other dozens of opportunities to celebrate the holidays together.
The mayor says the Electeds of Color holiday party has been held for more than a decade, and there's never been an issue before this.
So, apparently they've been practicing racism in Boston for over 10 years, I guess. It's funny. If this were just a private thing of these people just getting together, you get together with whoever you want, right. What's the problem? But she's using government resources to go and invite elected officials who she works with who are only of a certain color. There's something that's just absolutely wrong there. But certainly the idea that any government resources were tied to this project just seems absolutely crazy. What do you guys think about this, having an unwhite Christmas in Boston?
These people, well, first of all, let me just say for the record, you see that word people of color, elected officials of color. You see that bullshit? Oh, I'm sorry. I just hate it, okay? Just for the thing. And if anyone...
You get some coal in your stocking, Leah.
Yes. And if any of you guys ever call me a person of color, I will never speak to you again. I'm joking about that, but I just see that. Anyway, to the point. These losers, these left-wing losers, they always want to tell us about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Underline that word, inclusion. So when you decide to have a party for only elected people of color, what you call that? That is inclusive? That is inclusivity? But what we are seeing here, you know what these losers are doing? Why they're trying to lie to us? You know what they're doing? We are seeing, we are viewing, we are watching the reincarnation of Jim Crow. That is what we are watching right now. It just more sophisticated. They was wear suits, they wear ties, they wear nice fancy dresses, and they look so nice and wonderful as they try to explain their diversity, equity, and inclusion. But it's nothing but the same racist Jim Crow that we thought we got rid of with the civil rights movement. And this is what these people are practicing and trying to ram it down our throats and tell us it's something good.
There's two things. One, what's next? We're going to have, water fountains for people of color?
Oh, yes, man.
Was that where we're going to end up?
Yes,
and if it wasn't for hypocrisy, these people would have no standards. I think this hypocrisy is the only standard these people have. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't have much else.
It's so sad too, because I think, some of this maybe came from a good place at some point a long time ago, but diversity just has become division.
This doesn't come from a good place.
Well, I think
racism could never come from a good place, period.
Sure. I agree with that. I just mean the idea that what they claim they're trying to do is they're trying to elevate people who've been victimized. Essentially, that's their victimology complex that they have. And so they're trying to, they think that by finding somebody who looks like somebody who was a victim 50 years ago and elevating them over somebody who looks like a perpetrator from 50 years ago, they feel like now they've participated in justice, which is just horrible, right? I mean, that's not justice. That's the definition of racism. That's everything terrible.
And you know what they're saying. You know what these people are saying when they have these segregated parties. They are saying, "Oh, these poor black people, they can't do nothing for themselves. So we have to elevate them. We have to elevate them just to show what good people we are." That is the worst kind of racism, because they're saying we are less than them. That's what they're saying.
Well, all this stuff is based in Marx, and for Marx, most of these people are the useful idiot. So, the ones who just go along, is the useful idiot.
Yeah, it brings up the question too: who's the worst useful idiot? The people who run for these offices, or the people who elect them?
True.
Well, I think that's about the end of our show. Hopefully, you're having a good year out there. Certainly, there's a lot of chaos, but we're going to try and stay on a lot of that for you coming up over this next year, and keep covering issues on liberty. Hopefully, we'll have a lot of good guests again this coming year. We certainly had a lot this past year. But we got to get back on track with that soon. So hopefully we'll see some more guests coming up in January. But go check out some of our old shows on Rumble, Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, and you can see some of those great conversations we had of people trying to make a difference in their area on liberty. And until the next show, think about what you could be doing in your area to also try and make a difference. It's that New Year's resolution time, so maybe there's something you can do with a resolution for liberty this year. So thanks so much again for joining us. Until the next one, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.